Hi and welcome everyone. Carole Lozé, she works at CJMD 96.9 FM on the dial if you're in the Quebec region of Lévis in my province. She's also on Facebook. I know not all of you will understand because it was a French interview, but please take the time. If you do know anyone French or if you speak French, she has a lot of shows on, ufology, the unknown, and a whole bunch of things. Had a nice chance to interact with her and the co-animator Steve Z at the same time. So which crater are we looking at here? I've shown this one at one point. I don't know if you all remember it. Copernicus, the straight line or towering objects that's literally lifting off the side of Copernicus. And it's seen in many different videos that I've shown. This is, again, straight up the surface of Plato crater, right around Plato crater. Look on that's the fire they call transient lunar phenomena. Yeah, NASA calls it that right there. The greenery on the surface, again, seen with the telescope, even though we know space and color is seen differently in space. And along that terminator line is showing us all the elevated objects because the terminator line does that. It's important that you all remember that I say that, because when you get a telescope, go along the terminator line. This is just structures inside of a crater. That's what it looks like. That's how they can hide objects. How do I see them and others don't? By simply taking down the exposure and actually just taking the time to view it. And don't forget, I do have a 14-inch telescope. That's $10,000 US. It's a big telescope, high definition on it also, and I can get some really good shots of the surface. Look at this raw video, not even adjusted, not even exposure taken down. See the stars behind the light? Now listen, have you ever seen a satellite that close? It's not a satellite, okay? Listen, satellites don't come down and act like ghosts and have lights coming out the sides of it. Some type of weird beam ray system or something in the center of it that has like a square. Sometimes it's circular. The light beaming up and down, slowed down, almost stopped over the house. Wow, how awesome is that? The research will never end here. It will always continue. And look, we have plenty of time with the bloody rain and everything to look at all this stuff. So what is this? Yeah, it's a light on the surface, touching the surface. Those are all proof that the UFOs that I'm filming are actually on the surface. And that light underneath that you see billowing right now with all the lights coming from it is where the UFOs are hiding on the surface, I assure you. Whether the light be a camouflage or quite simply because they're illuminated and we're seeing the clouds over top of them, it only makes sense. Come on. And when one disappears on one side, it appears 20 kilometers further. That's another piece of proof that is not getting in the news. But of course, we know it's not going to get out into the news. So I'm going to continue sharing it, and literally everyone's going to know about it. This is one of the closest views of Aristarchus crater that I've ever gotten. Beside, in the center, you could see a massive hole in the ground, but again, in the circle and everywhere on the surface, just some unknown anomalies that seem to be scattered absolutely everywhere and across the entire surface. There's a lot of lines going to some of these objects that are really lengthy. They go like 1,000 kilometers long. Could they be built lines? Theory, but very interesting. I'm going to trick your eyes here. Like, the surface structures are hard to see, obviously, seen from another planet. But whoa, eh? Just changing that filter just gives you an idea of how they could hide the squares. Whoa, right? Now to the left, we can see a line like a bridge going over top. To the left of the circle, actually. So, we see a lot of details. Like, anybody who thinks that these are not structures, well, there's a problem. But it doesn't matter. I'm not going to break anyone's arm. It's best that way. I'll be able to share my research for many more years here with you all. You guys remember the video with the infrared camera filming the lights slowing down? Each night I kept posting them, and this one, some of you will remember, I actually asked it to impress me and the community. While everyone's watching on the video, I said, I'd love to see it fly away. And it is exactly what it's going to do. We're looking at it in slow motion. No, actually, sorry, this is real time. Yeah, this is exactly real time, actually. And watch it go further out. There we go. And that's not something a satellite usually does. Obviously, a satellite goes from left to right, up to down. That's all it does. Yes, it changes intensity of light. Maybe. We're not even sure. Don't forget, Elon Musk told us all they go up in orbit once they come out of the train there. I mean, don't even think of it. So the mysterious light on the left is on the surface and the other light is higher up. Where does this light go to when it disappears? Well, I'll tell you what. Hello. There's a light system. That's why I'm always talking about a light system. So guess what? Some of the research I'm showing is maybe not even UFO related. Maybe this is totally alien to us, but alien to our understanding, and maybe not that alien. Because we're seeing something on the moon. There, look at it illuminating the surface. Absolutely impossible for it not to be there, right? Let's see that again. For those just arriving to the channel, listen, there are UFOs on the surface. So what I did is I brought the exposure completely down because the lights that are moving around have the same reflectivity as the surface, right? Understand that? Rewind it, listen to it again, you'll understand. The light on the left that's on the surface, the other light appeared hovering over on the right, which was slowed down here, disappears, goes somewhere, yet all the other lights simultaneously too. At the same time the light on the left disappears, the light on the right is surrounded by many other lights. And again, we're slowed down frame here, so it happened not that much quicker, but it did happen a lot quicker. And there we see again, if it's illuminating the surface, it's exposing a lot of the UFOs for me. Science right now, and all those smart people doing programs to be able to clarify and look for sunken treasure and to look underneath the water, all these programs that clarify images. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing the same thing that the scientists are doing. I'm adjusting the exposure, finding a way to see the moon. Backscattering is that white haze that you see when you're zooming in to an area that's seen further out. And as she mentions in the video, when you're looking further away underwater, it gets very blurry. So you have the back scattering. It's the scattering of light. Because like I've mentioned to you many a times, what happens to a stick when it goes into water? It bends. Therefore, the refraction of light changes directions when it's traveling through the water, and you get that light scattering. All to be able to see the surface by adjusting the exposure. Maybe people on the moon, if there are any, alien or human, are trying to look at us, trying to clarify the surface the same way we're trying to clarify it, see them. As little as it is for many of you, this large object that is standing up off the surface, I found a way to clarify that it's not a shadow behind it either. It's two different objects. I know that teases NASA every time I show it, even though they know that not many people are watching. I still see it. These structures, as simple as they look, are hard to prove that they are structures at all. I simply analyze the connections, look at the emplacements of them, try to analyze how high they are up off the surface. We have no confirmation of any of it, but honestly, just what we're looking at is showing us so much proof that someone's up there. Here's a satellite train, a SpaceX satellite train, 60 satellites, and I'll show you also one of actually 120 satellites and one of 60, and two different occasions. This one's beside Venus, pretty cool. But now here's the thing, the size they have these telescopes. But now here's the thing, the size they have these satellites, they go up higher up in orbit, much higher up in orbit. They were just released hours ago. So once they go up in orbit, they're going to be even further away, and we're not going to see any blinding lights on them. I assure you the lights that we see in the sky are mainly UFOs, not satellites. Come on, guys. You can tell by the size of them. The ones I'm capturing are so close, they're putting lights on the top of my house, my rooftop, for Pete's sakes. These are very far away. And again, I could only see them for 9 to 10 seconds as they were crossing over the horizon. And there's a moon phase, part of it anyways, because it's obviously impossible to get every night. There's always a cloud or a chemtrail. But ever wonder why they call it the blood moon and what happens during an eclipse that it becomes red? Well, the only light reflected from the lunar surface, it's being refracted by Earth's atmosphere. So the light appears reddish. It's the same reason as the sun sets or the sun rises as they're rising. Notice the moon as it's rising, it's yellowish. And before it's descending, the lower it gets, even in the evening, it'll get a glow, orange or reddish glow. Due to the reddish color, a totally eclipsed moon is sometimes called a blood moon. This one really intrigued me. You'll see the smaller one gets further away, but look what happens to the big one underneath, like static electricity that is coming from around it, and it gets pretty intense. And you'll see as we progress, UFOs over my house, 2 or 3 of them, slowly examining each other as they pass over my house. UFO slows down over the house to interact with several UFOs pretty close to one another. Watch this. Notice the lights coming from the larger craft or light, UFO, whatever, is shooting out of it or coming from it. You just see it there. There are those little lights shooting all around it.
Party all night long. Aliens on the moon, they must be mighty. They're up there sitting down in that pontoon. They rock everybody up in their belly party. They bopping, they jumping, they coming here so soon. Yeah, aliens are up there on the moon. They may be even coming right here soon. Aliens are mighty on the moon, yes they are up there. Doesn't matter cause disclosure's coming soon.